How's it going? Gon here. Welcome to the definitive Angry Birds Iceberg, the most extensive Angry Birds Iceberg on the internet, with over 200 entries about our beloved dead franchise. But before we get into the iceberg, I'm gonna be using golden eggs to determine my certainty on the topic. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let's start with the sky. These are your run-of-the-mill entries. Even if you're not a fan of the series, you probably know these. Founded in 2003 in Finland by Niklas Hed, Jarno Vaikevainen and Kim Dickard, sorry if I butchered those names, which I probably did, this is the company that created the Angry Birds franchise back in 2009. Since its inception, Rovio made various mobile games, but unfortunately none of them met their success until they released the original Angry Birds. Ever since, Rovio has been a giant on the mobile gaming industry, even if they fell a couple of times. Angry Birds Seasons was the second entry on the Angry Birds series. Released in 2010, this game is just like the original Angry Birds, but with each episode featuring a different holiday or season. The game released many updates, each one bringing new episodes and seasons, until its final update on May 2018. And in 2019, the game was delisted from the App Store and Google Play Store and has no signs of coming back. This is also my favorite Angry Birds game, so I would appreciate if the game came back. The Mighty Eagle was first introduced in 2010 as a purchasable power-up on the original Angry Birds. You first had to throw a tuna can onto the structures, and then the Mighty Eagle appears and wipes up completely everything. It was a little expensive at first, but I think there were some free levels that would let you use it. Ever since its introduction, the Mighty Eagle has been a series staple. He even made an appearance on the Angry Birds movie, portrayed by Peter Dinklage. Now that's top-tier casting. Rovio Classics is the name given to a series of re-releases of old Angry Birds games. And how many games are in this series? Just one. Rovio Classics Angry Birds, a re-release of the original Angry Birds. It released on May 31st, 2022, and it was delisted from the App Store and Google Play Store in 2023, and that also came with a new name for the app, Red's First Flight. This game was supposedly the first of many, but Rovio backed down on that statement and discarded the whole plan. This entry might be in the sky nowadays, but as years pass, I can see this falling all the way underwater. It's just a question of time. Like every other big franchise, Angry Birds has gotten many plushies over the years, spanning different series and games. The most popular plush set is the one by Commonwealth from the early 2010s. This company manufactured Angry Birds plushies until the mid-2010s, around the time the Angry Birds movie released. We've got plushes from the original, Seasons, Space, Star Wars and much more. In most recent years, the original set has been reprinted by Mighty Mojo, another manufacturer. My childhood dream was to get the giant Mighty Eagle plush, but since they didn't sell them on physical stores and only on angrybirds.com and Amazon, I never got it. But now with the reprint, I didn't get it too. See, some things never change. In April 2019, Rovio delisted some of their classic Angry Birds games from mobile stores. And some of the games include the original, Seasons, Rio, Space, Star Wars 1 and 2, Go, and Epic. This change was terrible, and I speak for everyone when I say that nobody liked it. For licensed games such as Angry Birds Rio and Star Wars, I get that, maybe the license expired, but when you remove the original, the game that saved your company from bankruptcy and got it popular in the first place, it's unacceptable. After this whole fiasco, the fans launched a movement labeled Bring Back 2012, with the intention of getting the original games back in some form. For 2 years, the fans' cries weren't answered, but in 2021, Rovio released a statement saying that they removed the games because, well, they just weren't compatible with newer hardware. Seems legit. But then you know the rest. They promised that the games would return, but only one did and was pulled from the store 1 year later. Starting in 2011, Evan2HD is a channel ran by Evan where he mainly reviewed toys, stuff like Legos and such. But when he started, and when he first peaked, was with Angry Birds toys. Evan was the Angry Birds guy on YouTube. He wasn't the only kid doing Angry Birds toys reviews, but he was, by far, the biggest. I remember back in 2012 I used to watch his videos about Angry Birds Space plushes or Angry Birds Mashems. Yeah, remember those? On my old Windows XP, yep, such good memories. For me, Evan2HD is a channel that hits close to home, to be honest. I don't watch his newest stuff, but man, I grew up watching his videos, and alongside that, I also saw him grow. It's one of the few channels that I'm aware of where we saw a 5-year-old kid grow up all the way to an adult. In June 2024, Evan announced his retirement from YouTube to focus on college, but new videos are posted once in a while. The classic Angry Birds games had special golden eggs hidden throughout the whole game. It could be on the level select screen, in the credits, or even the home screen. These were everywhere. And inside those golden eggs, we had special levels that were nothing like the main game. Come on, one red bird versus a pile of pigs? Also, we had some levels that were completely different. One of them you had to play the accordion, and one where you had to play a certain pattern with bird, pig, and structure sounds. Like any other big video game franchise, Angry Birds had a movie duology made by Sony Animation. The first movie, the Angry Birds movie, released June 2016 and it was a financial hit. The critics didn't like it, but the fans loved it. In my eyes, I thought this was a step in the right direction for the game-based movies genre. The movie tells the story of Red, and he's angry, and then he meets the other birds, and they're also angry. And then they destroy the castle and kill the pigs. Yeah, that's basically the same as the game. There's also Ian and Anthony from Smosh, voicing Bubbles and Hal, and that was pretty funny. The second Angry Birds movie, the Angry Birds Movie 2, released in August 2019, and it was bad. It did okay financially, but man, not even the fans liked this one. I personally haven't watched it. Yet. I don't know, I'm just not a fan of the idea of the pigs and birds teaming up to defeat an evil that I've never seen in my life. The main problem that I see from this movie is how they distanced too much from the source material and made whatever this is. The Angry Birds Movie 3 was announced in June 2024 with a planned release date of January 2027. Will this one be as good as the first one and succeed in the box office? Honestly, I doubt it, but we'll have to wait and see. In 2013, Angry Birds Toons released to the masses, the very first Angry Birds cartoon. And this was very important for the franchise because 1. The games were finally hitting TV, and 2. This was the very first time the birds were named. The names that you see, for example, in the movies, came from Angry Birds Toons. Toons was a very fun show. 5 to 10 minute skits of the characters doing some goofy shit or something. I first started watching it on YouTube and on Toons TV, an app that included all of Toons, trailers, ads, and much more Angry Birds related stuff. But then the show finally hit the television here in Portugal, and that was insane. And the best thing is, as of September 2025, it still airs in Portuguese television. Yep, still here. Now we're getting into the actual iceberg. The tip of the iceberg continues from the previous layer, but with lesser known entries. Angry Birds has had many ads everywhere, outdoors, indoors, on the game itself. Angry Birds is the perfect advertising machine, especially when kids love it. This is such a general topic that it's hard to put everything here, but don't worry, we'll continue to explore the world of Angry Birds ads further down on the iceberg. Like every other game in the world, Angry Birds has many speedruns. These obviously consist of finishing the entire game the fastest way possible. There's many stats online, probably even some exploits, but I was never interested in the speedrun scene of Angry Birds. 2011 was arguably one of the best years for the Angry Birds franchise. We got a new game and the first ever collab game, Angry Birds Rio, we got a bunch of new episodes in Angry Birds Seasons, and that included some fan favorites such as Hugs and Kisses and Summer Picnic. We also got a new bird, that being the orange bird that later would be known as Bubbles. And above all that, the series was at its peak. Rovio was making a name for itself on the industry. I think the only year that was better than 2011 was 2012 and maybe 2013, but I don't know. This is a game launched in June 2021 exclusively for the Apple App Store. It's just like a classic Angry Birds game, but with a twist. Enhanced visuals, new characters, new enemies, and more. Most of the new characters are just from the second movie, don't be fooled. As of now, the game is still constantly getting new updates, but who knows, Rovio will probably give up on this one just like the rest. Matilda, aka the White Bird, prior to Angry Birds Toons, looked like this, but after 2012 she started looking like this, so most people assume that Rovio changed their gender. To be honest, I really think that's not the case. I think the old games and the original design explicitly said that she's a chicken and lays eggs. You can piece the two together. Ari Pulkkinen is a Finnish musician and composer, and his most famous work is the Angry Birds theme. He's the one that composed the classic Angry Birds theme song that we all love, and some other songs from the original game soundtrack. In early 2020, Angry Birds partnered up with Duolingo. That partnership brought us Red on the Duolingo app, and the Duolingo spell on Angry Birds 2. The spell, when launched, makes eggs rain from the sky down to the structures. Nothing special. On the original Angry Birds, in certain levels, there's an egg or eggs inside the structures. For example, the level 3-21. Why am I saying this? Well, it doesn't matter how many times you try to break them, they're indestructible, so you can wipe out the whole thing and the eggs will still be there. April 17th, 2023. Possibly one of the weirdest days for an Angry Birds fan. Sega, of all companies, officially agreed on buying Rovio for $706 million. This was a shock. Since this is still somewhat recent, we haven't gotten much since the acquisition. Since then, we've only gotten crossovers in other Sega games, the movie announcement, and more AI Rovio slop. But that's beyond Sega's control. Nothing has changed so far, for better or for worse. This is a Twitter account dedicated to posts about facts from the Angry Birds franchise. This account has been around since 2020 and is responsible for archiving many stuff about Angry Birds. One of the best things that has happened to the franchise in recent years, even if it's not official and it's only ran by fans of the series. New facts haven't been posted onto the account since 2024, but its contribution will not be forgotten. The Golden King Pig level, or Pig Panic, is a special level included in the original Angry Birds. However, this level was only available on iOS, Android, PC and BlackBerry Playbooks Q and X. What the f*** is a Q and X? This is by far one of the hardest Golden Eggs to unlock in the game. In order to get it, you had to get 3 stars on every single level from Poached Eggs all the way to Birthday Day. Or you could just, spend $20 on a King Pig activity to wait to unlock it. You might be asking what was the deal with this level. What's the shtick? This level is a collection of 4 mini-games. The first one is King Pig, where the birds turn into pigs and pigs turn into eggs. It's just regular Angry Birds but with swapped roles. In Material Mix-Up, the building materials get swapped with one another. Bird Frenzy is just Angry Birds but with unlimited birds. And in Total Destruction, you don't use birds at all, just tap the screen to create explosions and destroy the buildings. A neat little extra, for sure. This entry is referring to the original Angry Birds trailer released in 2009. This trailer shows gameplay of the game and showcases each ability of the birds. This is not the only time we'll discuss about this trailer on the Iceberg. In 2021, Rovio started hinting that the old games, previously delisted from the App Store, would return. Rio, Seasons, Go, they were coming back. One of them even came back, Angry Birds Classic. Everything was leading to the return of the old games. But as we know, that didn't happen. Angry Birds Classic was deleted once again and Rovio cancelled the other games. We just can't get nice things, unfortunately. This is a nostalgic video uploaded by Android MX in 2011. This video consists of an unboxing of a ton of bootleg Angry Birds plushes, paired with other random merchandise. Oh, and androids. This video is very nostalgic to me because I remember rewatching this video so many times. And hey, the video is currently over 2 million views, so probably you've already seen it. Angry Birds has received numerous level complete screens, 3 to be exact, only on the original game. We first had this one introduced in version 1.0 with this yellow and cyan design. Later, in version 1.4.2, they updated the design. And finally, the screen received its final update in version 2.0, released late 2011. And this design would later be used in future games, such as Angry Birds Seasons, Angry Birds Rio, Angry Birds Space, Angry Birds Star Wars, and more. On the topic of the level select screen, did you know there's an extended version of the level complete theme? Take a listen. Prior to 2011 and the release of Angry Birds Chrome, the pig sported an older, different look. This design was introduced in the original Angry Birds and was used on Angry Birds Seasons and other versions of the original game from 2010 and early 2011. With the release of Angry Birds Chrome, these designs became the new normal. The funky theme is a song heard in one of the Golden Egg levels and all promotional videos, such as the cinematic trailer for Angry Birds Classic, and apparently it was supposed to be the theme song for Angry Birds, before we got the one we know today. It was composed by Ari Pulkkinen, and it's a song not many people talk about, so here's to the funky theme. The Angry Birds Nest is a website created in 2014 by the fans for the fans. According to them, they are the go-to place for walkthroughs, news, and much more, so make sure to check it out sometime. This is the original name for Angry Birds Seasons. When the game released on October 2010, the only episode they had was Halloween themed, so why not name it Angry Birds Halloween? However, this version of the game was short-lived, because in December we got Seasons Greetings, a Christmas-themed episode. So from that point on, this game would be known as Angry Birds Seasons. Smooth Cheeks is the name given to the Toon's incarnation of the King Pig, and in early concepts of the Angry Birds movie, they were considering using Smooth Cheeks as the main baddie instead of Leonard, but it never made past the concept stage. This is referring to some ports of Angry Birds Classic that stopped being supported at some point of time. Angry Birds HD, Angry Birds Lite, and the PC version are some examples. Around 2012, Rovio partnered up with Fazer Confectionery Ltd to create Angry Birds Candy. These resemble the birds, eggs, pigs, and blocks, so you can use your imagination and make your own builds. They even had their own packaging. For example, we had a red packaging, a chuck one, multiple packagings of the pigs, and much more. In 2013, these candies were the center of controversy, because Fazer accidentally started inserting chocolate with the gummies, so they later apologized. I mean, if I saw chocolate and gummies all in the same sack, I would be fine by that. It's a win-win. But that's just me. Angry Birds Comics was a series of comics distributed by IDW Publishing. It ran from 2014 all the way to 2017. This series has in total 31 comics, spanning from the Toon's designs to the movie designs in the end. This is not the only time we'll touch in an Angry Birds comic series. Dave77748 was a YouTube channel famous for its Angry Birds animations. It had such classics as The Uber Pig, Back to School, and Pig Factory. Yeah, these were quite simple animations, nothing special, but certainly many people, mostly kids in the early 2010s, watched this. The most viewed video on the channel has over 28 million views, so if you grew up with Angry Birds in the early 2010s, you most certainly watched these videos. The channel's last upload was in 2020, so it's currently inactive. Like any other children's property, there's bound to be many cheaply made kids videos on the internet, and Angry Birds is certainly no exception. Go ahead, search for Angry Birds Kids videos. You might find some normal, some weird, some funny, or just plain bizarre. Most of them consist of playthroughs of knockoff Flash games, weird animations, very weird animations, and of course, official material. Not as bad as Elsagate, but odd. Yes, when the original Angry Birds released for the Apple App Store in 2009, it was paid. You had to pay $4.99 at launch to play Angry Birds. Later that price went down, and then ultimately, it became free. Welcome to Tier 3, Below the Surface. Get ready for more niche facts. To truly start the iceberg and its depths, we have Angry Birds soft drinks. Olvi, a Finnish soft drinks manufacturer, decided to release Angry Birds soft drinks in 2012. 8 flavors were available: Tropic, Paradise, Lagoon, Comet, Tropic Cola, Amazon, Diamond, and Sunrise, with the last 2 being plastic bottles instead of cans. This was a free version of Angry Birds exclusive to Google Chrome. Released in 2011, this game utilized many levels from Angry Birds Classic and Angry Birds Seasons, but it still didn't take the magic of playing Angry Birds in a web browser. This game was also responsible for implementing the new pig designs I mentioned prior. Unfortunately, the game was discontinued and shut down in 2015. Well, we all know DeviantArt is the realm of all things kinky, and there is a lot of Angry Birds fetish art on the platform. I won't elaborate further. This is the 13th episode in Angry Birds Seasons. It released on August 2012 and it's an episode focused on the back-to-school theme. It consists of 20 levels and it was the debut of the Pink Bird, aka Stella. She made her first appearance in this episode. With this new season, an animation also released on the Angry Birds YouTube account for Stella's debut. Also known as Angry Birds Turkish Pepper, this was an online game similar to Angry Birds Coca-Cola and Cheetos. But to play it, you had to obtain a code that came with Fazer Volcano, a candy made by Fazer who I mentioned earlier. It only features 6 levels, and it's still available to play. The Angry Birds Seasons OST is no doubt the best in the series. It features more than 30 songs, but they're all the same. Yes, the entire soundtrack is just the classic Angry Birds theme, but, of course, with different instruments and arrangements to fit the seasons. In Angry Birds 2, sometimes when you replay a level, the structures may not look the same as last time, but the difficulty is remained the same. Rovio made a statement on why they made this decision, but I guess it's a neat addition. Snow Dodger 1 was one of the original Angry Birds Plush channels back in the early days. The channel started in 2011 with their first Angry Birds Plush video releasing in the same year. After that it was non-stop Angry Birds content. The quality just went up, upload after upload. We got classics that amassed millions of views. Some include Bubbles' Peanut Allergy, Angry Birds Knock on Wood 5, and my favorite, Angry Birds Battles Episode 1. Absolute cinema. This was clearly some kid's passion project and I respect that. But that kid grew up and the videos just stopped coming. Until now, I never noticed the significance of this channel. Most of my favorite videos from 12 years ago were from this guy, and I can't thank this guy enough for what he did. Thanks, Snow Dodger 1. Angry Birds is a cancelled farming sim and visual novel game by Rovio. The game followed distorted versions of the birds, living in a farm. During development, the game was called Angry Birds Farmageddon, and it was cancelled somewhere around 2015. For April Fools of that same year, Rovio released a trailer for the game on their YouTube channel. They intended this to be an April Fool's prank, since the game was cancelled, but there were still people believing that it was still coming. Looking at the Angry Birds and Angry Birds movie designs side by side, we can notice some similarities. The chunkier designs, humanoid limbs and human proportions. These two designs have a lot in common, but I believe it was just a coincidence on Rovio's part. Around 2020, Rovio launched an ad for Angry Birds 2 on YouTube and in the game itself, and the commercial is clearly just a Homescapes ripoff, another famous mobile game. Many people were not happy, and rightfully so. It's sad to see Rovio being so desperate at the point where they are just false advertising, because, in case you don't know, this has absolutely nothing to do with the actual game. This is not okay. I'm guessing unstable levels are those levels where the big structures just become unstable after a bird hits the building. An example for this is 5-6 from the original Angry Birds. What this entry is referring to is probably Angry Birds Winter Wonderland, a campaign ran by Rovio and Samsung to promote the new Samsung Galaxy Note in December 2011. In their official website for the campaign, you had an exclusive Angry Birds level, an animation for the promotion, 3 special e-cards, and a new game, Angry Birds Advent Challenge. This game shared similarities to a game called Bejeweled, but using Angry Birds characters. After the website shut down and the promotion came to a close, the game became unplayable, but the animation I mentioned earlier can still be viewed on YouTube. Angry Birds Lite was a free demo of the game that could be downloaded on the App Store from 2010 to 2011, before it was replaced by Angry Birds Free, that did the exact same thing. The demo featured the first 12 levels, and after you completed all of them, the game encouraged you to buy the full game. Normal demo stuff. To promote the new Samsung Galaxy Note, Rovio partnered up with Samsung to release exclusive levels for Angry Birds Space. Or should I say, one level. During this promotion, the episode Danger Zone was available for free for Samsung users only, but that was only for 3 months. The Mighty Dragon is a mythical creature that made its first appearance in the Year of the Dragon update for Angry Birds Seasons back in 2011. It functions similarly to the Mighty Eagle, you throw a red koi fish to the structures instead of a tuna can, and then the mighty dragon appears soaring through the sky and leaving massive destruction behind. Sadly, aside from this game, the mighty dragon never made a second appearance. Like every other popular game, Angry Birds has many mods. It can be from Go, Star Wars or space. There's a lot of mods for Angry Birds. Me personally, I'm not into the mod scene, but I'm sure there's some neat things to find in mods. We're getting into lost media territory now, so you know it's gonna be a good one. Around the early 2010s, Rovio made a multitude of variations of the original Angry Birds. Most of them were tie-in promotions and exclusives to a certain browser or social media. We managed to recover many. Angry Birds Chrome, Angry Birds Telepizza, and Angry Birds Cheetos are some examples. But unfortunately, there's still some that are completely lost, or just not confirmed to exist. Currently, according to the Lost Media Wiki, there's 6 lost web games, and 2 with existence unconfirmed, and that includes Angry Birds Opera and Angry Birds Hot Wheels Mashup. Now that are lost, we have Angry Birds Flash, Angry Birds Google+, Angry Birds Skills, and more. Okay, for some ungodly reason, a rumor saying that the reason the Angry Birds devs chose the color green for the pigs was because of the swine flu pandemic that was happening during the time. I thought that was true, and some also took that as a fact. But it's not. The real reason the color green was chosen was to contrast the birds' colors, since green is the opposite of red. The Super Seeds, now called Power Potion, were the first ever ability implemented on an Angry Birds game, excluding the Mighty Eagle and Mighty Dragon. It released in 2012 and once activated, your bird would grow twice their normal size. It was a neat idea, but as mentioned before, it's now called Power Potion and it still does the same thing. This is a book that collects various egg recipes made by the pigs. Only egg recipes are present, and egg-related stuff like cheese recipes. Later an app of the book was launched on the App Store. It was just an ebook in form of an app. It later got removed in 2015. This was an app and streaming service launched in March 2013. This app offered many Angry Birds content to watch, Angry Birds Tunes, Angry Birds Stella, Piggy Tales, and also many third-party programming like The Annoying Orange, Shaun the Sheep, and even Augie and the Cockroaches. The service later shut down in 2017. Ruby is an unplayable character that made her first appearance in promotional material for the episode Hugs and Kisses on Angry Birds Seasons. She looks exactly like Red, but with eyelashes and a yellow bow. Her whole character is that she's Red's love interest, I guess. We don't have much material on her, unfortunately. Apparently she was also the original concept of what would become Stella, so that's cool. Ruby would eventually return with an updated look in Angry Birds Friends, but this time she's Red's sister, so there's that. This is a rap song made by B-Shap in 2011. This song was really popular back in the day, generating millions of views, but recently I haven't seen many people talk about it, so that's why it's here. Did you know a version of the original Angry Birds exclusive to China exists? Me neither. It released in 2017 and it features many changes from the international versions. Over there they have exclusive episodes and even power-ups. However, they don't have the levels that we all know. This version just has those 7 exclusive Chinese themed episodes and that's it. Kind of a lame release, to be honest. This is a type of pig that was first introduced in Angry Birds Space. It's just a big pig with spots, just like Terrence. He made 2 more appearances after Space, which were on Piggy Tales and Angry Birds Friends, and that's it. We haven't seen this character since. This is a fan-made bird made by Alex Art 2012 on Scratch and DeviantArt in 2014. This character is a big meme on the community, mainly because it radiates kids' DeviantArt energy. This is more of a self-inserted OC made by Alex, but because of the image's resurgence on the 2020s, the original account and post were deleted by the man himself. Also known as Angry Birds Free with Magic, this game only released on Nokia C7 and Nokia N9 devices in 2011. The main gimmick of this game is that it uses NFT technology by overlapping 2 Nokia devices with one another. The game features 45 levels, but most are from Angry Birds Free with some exclusives thrown around in there. Angry Birds Nestle, later known as Angry Birds Breakfast, was a series of 3 Angry Birds games that you got through a promotion with Nestle. The first 2 parts came in CD-ROMs and are fairly easy to access nowadays. We'll later touch on the third part, Down on the Iceberg. This game was a game that ran on, you guessed it, not Snapchat, but Flash. The game was announced in 2011 with an early demo that was only playable in the event that was announced. The game never released, being cancelled in favor of Angry Birds Friends, that released late next year. The game build and demo are currently lost. This is a location within the Angry Birds world. It's also where Angry Birds Stella takes place. Aside from the Stella games and cartoon, this location has never returned since. This is a version of Angry Birds Star Wars that released in 2012. It featured the Tatooine and Death Star episodes, plus weekly tournaments like Angry Birds Friends. And it had 3 unique power-ups: the Blaster Droid, the Clone Bird, and the Lightsaber Sling. The game later shut down in 2014. Like any other game series, Angry Birds has a lot of scrapped games that never got out. Angry Birds Social, Angry Birds Island, Angry Birds Tennis, Angry Birds Dice, Angry Birds Football, Angry Birds Legends. There's a vast list of cancelled Angry Birds games. And it makes sense. Most of these games came from the experimental phase in the mid-2010s, where Rovio was trying to make something new, the same way we got Angry Birds Go. This was the original name of Angry Birds Friends in early 2012 when it released. It later changed to Angry Birds Friends the same year. Yes, he is in fact the main character of the game Bad Piggies. Through the course of 4 years, Rovio made special animations for Angry Birds seasons for when a new episode released in the game, and they were posted on their YouTube channel. Year of the Dragon, Halloween, Wreck the Halls, Summer Picnic. So many episodes had these cool animations made by talented people, and some of these continue to be one of the best things I've seen from the series. However, around 2013 they became less frequent, and in 2014 they stopped with the On Thin Ice episode update. This is a special kind of pigs that could be only seen on Angry Birds Epic, some Angry Birds Stella levels, the Angry Birds Friends Halloween Tournament, Bad Piggies, and Angry Birds Seasons. Nothing more to add. In 2011, Rooster Teeth launched a video titled Angry Birds The Movie trailer, the trailer for the supposed movie coming in 2012. That's what Little Kids thought it was. It's clearly just a skit made by Rooster Teeth. The trailer has almost nothing to do with Angry Birds, and it's just overall a pretty funny skit. It's very well made and I recommend checking it out. It's so surreal that a few years ago we thought this was a joke, but then we actually got an Angry Birds movie. Simpler times. In 2012, Rovio partnered up with K'NEX, a toy company similar to LEGO, to release Angry Birds K'NEX sets. These sets featured a slingshot, one bird or more, and a structure with pigs. Not only they did classic, but also with space. I recall seeing EvanTube review some of these K'NEX sets, and really wanting them. Later, I ended up getting these two, and they were so much fun. Okay, yeah, like any other property under the sun, Angry Birds received some Friday Night Funkin' mods. I'm not a Friday Night Funkin' guy myself, so this isn't really my cup of tea. Angry Birds World Tour was a game in result of a partnership with Global Eagle Entertainment, and was published for the in-flight video entertainment in certain airlines. It released in 2016 and it's just regular Angry Birds gameplay, but now we go around the world this time. North America, Europe, the Middle East and Asia are the places we go in Angry Birds World Tour. Pretty cool. This entry just refers to the official Angry Birds Space trailer launched in 2012 on the Angry Birds YouTube channel. Not to be confused with the story trailer which showcases the story of the game. No, this is just a trailer showing some clips of the story trailer, some gameplay and the response the game got from fans. The video currently sits with 8 million views. This is a transformation bomb received after a chemical reaction in the episode Short Fuse in the original Angry Birds. This form of bomb lets him create an explosion of electricity. Pretty handy. This transformation later made an appearance in some other games aside from the original. This was a character that always made secret appearances in the early Angry Birds games, like an Easter egg. He sometimes appeared on the pause screen in select versions of old games. Nowadays, Rovio retired the character and it's been a while since we last saw him. Oh, he's also an inside joke in the community. I don't know why though. Now this is a good one. Fun Video TV was a YouTube channel that posted weird shitty animations featuring stuff like Angry Birds and Plants vs Zombies. similar to those Italian brain-rotted skibidi toilet videos you find on YouTube Kids for greasy booger-eating children to watch. But fun video TV was different. We had these crazy mashups that for 2012 standards were impressive. Angry Birds Gangnam Style was the shit back then, you just had to be there. However, this isn't the last time we'll touch on fun video TV, because further down the iceberg, you're gonna find some deep stuff about this channel. Mattel is a toy company founded in 1945, and they made many Angry Birds toys throughout the early 2010s. These include Knock on Wood and On Sin Ice, which were based on the original game, which I have both sets. This is the only one I managed to find, On Sin Ice, and it looks absolutely trashed. I don't know what happened. Another set I have is this one, based on Angry Birds Space, which was pretty nice. This set updated the models with the chrome designs, and we got Iceberg, which was a win. And the final set I have is Mega Smash, which is no doubt the best of the four with more birds and pigs. I focused on the ones I have, but there's some crazy ones out there like Mega Fling and the Super Colossal Build-Up. This is a weird one. On the Ham Dunk episode of Angry Birds Seasons, the Mighty Eagle is replaced by the Mighty Basketball, and it's exactly where you think it is. A giant basketball. It works the same as the Mighty Eagle, but instead of you throwing a tuna can, it's a Spalding bag. Extremely obscure character that many people forgot. Revealed in November of 2011, the Hockey Bird was part of a collaboration between Rovio and NHL, and it was the official mascot of the 2012 IIHF Ice Hockey World Championship. It was launched exclusively to Angry Birds friends only in 2 events in 2012 and 2014. His ability in-game was the same as Chuck's, since he replaced him during the event. Many merchandise of this character, including plushies, were produced, and now tend to be stupid expensive. Since they're now collector's items, good luck getting the Hockey Bird plush. Angry Birds VR Isle of Pigs is a VR game that launched in 2019, and this game is based on the movie universe of Angry Birds. It's available on PS4, PS5, MetaQuest, Microsoft Windows and Android, and it's still up so you can still play it. But it's not the only VR game. We also have Angry Birds 2 Under Pressure, which is almost the same thing. Hal, aka the Green Bird, is notorious for being the bird with most design changes. Rovio just doesn't settle on a certain look. No, they made more than 6 design changes. From his weird prototype design that honestly doesn't look too bad, to his classic, which is the best, and the definitive Hal, to his chrome design, which is fine, to all the other design changes. But my favorites will always be the classic design and his Toons design. These I find more appealing than the rest. This is an update that released to Angry Birds Go in 2017. This was a major update that changed everything for the worse to many people. The Toons designs on the loading screen and in other images were replaced by the movie designs. And not to mention that the player and card select screens became soulless without the Q3D scenery. Rovio decided to push way more microtransactions with new loot boxes you could buy, and so many other bad changes. Overall, the game became worse from one moment to another. Rovio really knows how to ruin a masterpiece. Angry Birds had more than 1 billion downloads before its deletion on the App Store, and because of its popularity, it's natural that a ton of copies and bootlegs would invade the App Store. Around its peak, there were tons of cheaply made copycat games, and they were the funniest. You wanted to play Angry Birds, but nah, we only play Angry Cock in this house. I seriously need to ask if someone played this unironically. I need to know. Apparently, Angry Birds Next, now known as Angry Birds Launch It because Next was the development name, is an upcoming cross-platform multiplayer Angry Birds game. Not much information about Angry Birds Launch It is available, but we know that unfortunately in December 2023 the studio behind the game was shut down and the game was shelved. But hopefully things turn around and this game actually releases. For our last entry in Tier 3, we have Epic Sax Pig, aka Trump Pig. This is a character that first appeared on Angry Birds Toons and also made some extra appearances in 2 other games. He's just a blonde pig with a saxophone and sunglasses. Pretty cool, I guess. Now we're in Tier 4, the belly of the iceberg. We're in the middle and in the biggest layer of the iceberg, so get ready. To kickstart the biggest layer of the iceberg, we have a classic, Hungry Hungry Piggies from TomLG 1992 on YouTube. This is a classic Angry Birds video from 2011 of a simple 3D animation of the game, with all your favorite characters and a purple bird that never existed on the official games. This is a fan-made bird which is just a recolor of Terrence with some cheesy extras. Honestly, I don't know what happened during the creative process of the character, but they cooked. The pizza bird never made an appearance in any official material, and it's unlikely that will ever happen. This is a mysterious character that only made an appearance once on the very first Angry Birds loading screen. For years, many speculated that he was an earlier version of Matilda or the Mighty Eagle, but both were incorrect. It was confirmed in 2023 by one of the devs that it's actually just an early version of Bomb before he gained his explosive powers. But recently, it seems like the official Angry Birds Twitter account is treating him like his own character, so maybe we'll see more of him someday. Angry Birds was a big franchise. It was really big. So it was only a matter of time until we got a sticker book. Sticker books, I mean. I know we got one based on the original, but I don't have anything of that one. But I remember I had Angry Birds Space stickers from the Angry Birds Space sticker album. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is referring to a collection of images depicting realistic Angry Birds and pigs, and these were made by the artist Sam Spratt. You've probably seen these images somewhere on the internet. These became a big meme in recent years. Angry Birds Trilogy is a 2012 compilation game released for the Wii, PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U, PS Vita and 3DS. It was just a port of the first 3 Angry Birds games, that being the original, Seasons and Rio, but this time in HD and with better graphics, at least the home console ports. This was the first time Angry Birds was playable on home consoles like the PS3 and the Wii, so it has some significance. In 2019, PUBG received an Angry Birds collab with the movie designs. This collab came with new cosmetics and a promotional video, which doesn't look too bad. Also known as Blue Terrence, is Terrence's cousin from Finland, funnily enough. He made his first appearance on the 2014 episode On Thin Ice in Angry Birds Seasons. Tony's ability is similar to Silver's from Angry Birds 2, but without the little loop animation. Tony simply drops down when tapping on the screen. 10 years after his debut, Tony returned in Angry Birds Reloaded. Something that comes into question with Angry Birds fans is the Blue's gender. There are some people that believe they're male, but there's also some people who believe they're female. But in the end of the day, who really cares? Amazing Alex was a 2012 puzzle game made by Rovio. The main objective of the game is to guide the ball to a certain location by creating a trajectory with random objects. It was a fun game, and pretty sure anyone who played Angry Birds from 2012 to 2013 was exposed to this game, cause Rovio advertised this game hard. Later the game was removed from the App Store and Google Play Store in 2015. It was a fun game, but only for the first 10 minutes. Rovio wanted to replicate the success of Angry Birds, but it didn't work. This isn't a known fact, but the original ending animation of the episode Mine and Dine from Angry Birds Classic made many people think that this was the final episode. Cause in the final cutscene we can see a beaten up King Pig with his eyes closed. The same thing happened in the other episodes, but he at least blinked once or twice to signal that he would return, but here, he looks dead. Later, when the next episode released, the animation was changed to show the King Pig blink. Red's Mighty Feathers was a special episode that released in 2013 on Angry Birds Classic. The main gimmick of this episode was giving Red the ability to head towards any direction by tapping the screen. It was a good skill, but it was exclusive to this episode only. The levels also got an Angry Birds Trilogy theme, but it was removed in subsequent updates. It was a unique episode, but way too different from the other episodes. The Angry Birds Go trailer. My god, what a beauty. For the record, what I'm talking about is not a cinematic trailer, I'm talking about this one, Angry Birds Go in real life. This was unlike anything I had seen before, they quite literally brought the game to real life. I'd almost forgotten how creative Rovio was during the early 2010s. Go's launch was already something huge, and this trailer made it even more special. In early versions of the original Angry Birds, Chuck had a completely different design in the cutscenes. He was way small, even smaller than the Blues, his hair was yellow, and in general his design was very weird. Everyone calls him Beta Chuck, cause he's clearly from an earlier build and was accidentally left in by the devs. Yep, according to this image, Bomb has a literal explosive inside him. Strange. Balkan Blast Remix is a remix of the Angry Birds theme made for the game Just Dance 2016. It was featured in other Just Dance titles like Just Dance Now and Just Dance Plus. It's a good remix, the original's better though. This was a placeholder name for Angry Birds 2 during development, and for the game's beta. The test beta released in Canada and Australia in 2015. After a few months, the real name was revealed as Angry Birds 2 and the rest is history. Like the name suggests, this is Bomb's mom and she's a pretty obscure character. She only made 2 appearances. One was on the Angry Birds social media account, showing a Mother's Day card made by Bomb. And the second appearance was on the Angry Birds movie too, although she's only mentioned. Definitely a character we need to see more of. Oh boy, let's talk about Angry Birds Tazos. In 2012, PepsiCo ran a promotion where you could get Angry Birds Tazos with PepsiCo products, stuff like Cheetos, Chippy Cow, and more. In case you don't know, Tazos are basically little plastic discs. I'm pretty sure it has different names depending on the region, but here in Portugal and other countries that the promotion ran, it's called Tazos. These featured small illustrations of the characters from Angry Birds Classic and Seasons, and the neat thing about these Tazos is that you could build structures and launch them through these holes around the edges. And only 1 year later, PepsiCo ran a second promotion, but this time based on only Angry Birds Space, and these were arguably so much cooler. The illustrations were way better and the colors popped more on these. The only problem I saw with these were the quantity. Was PepsiCo really expecting us to buy 50 Cheeto bags to get every Tazo? Yes, they were. Speaking of bomb, did you know we bombed India? Jokes aside, this is a video uploaded by Sony Pictures India in 2019 to promote the release of the Angry Birds movie too. The video shows Bomb being completely rejected by everyone in India. It's kinda sad in a way. The production quality is bad coming from Sony, but it's a charming video. Maximus Overdrive is a YouTube channel created in 2018 specialized on Angry Birds merchandise, more specifically on Angry Birds plushes made by Commonwealth in the early 2010s. Most videos consist on mini documentaries on a specific series of Angry Birds plushes, such as the Christmas Seasons plush set or the Classic set. I've seen some of his videos and oh my, this collection was my 5-year-old dream. Sucks it's expensive now. This really is an expensive hobby. Anyways, if you like that kind of stuff, I highly recommend this channel. In 2016, Rovio ran a giveaway on their Facebook page for an exclusive silver plush from Angry Birds 2. The quantity was limited and the plush became a collector's item, but since then, the plush has been re-released in Finland and is available in Finnish stores. Outside from Finland, the plush is still rare and expensive. This is referring to small pencil topper plushes released in the early 2010s. Many were made and they look so cute. I never had any of them, but they look so tiny and cute. I love them. This entry is only referring to the Telepizza plushes, but might as well mention the game. Angry Birds Telepizza was a web game made during a Telepizza campaign in Spain in 2012. It was just a simple Angry Birds ad game, just like Angry Birds Cheetos and Coca-Cola, but with a pizza theme. And this campaign also extended beyond the web game, cause only 1 year later in 2013, you could get an Angry Birds plush by purchasing pizza on Telepizza restaurants. That's awesome, and these plushes are not bad. I even have some of them that came from another promotion from another store in 2016. In the early years, every time a new Angry Birds released, a plush collection based on said game would release, like Seasons, Rio and Space. And in 2014, for the release of Angry Birds Star Wars 2, numerous plushes were made and scheduled to release, but due to royalty issues, the plushes were never officially released. However, we have photos of the prototypes and these look better than everything that came before. Seriously, these are amazing and Commonwealth went all out on the prototypes. It's a shame we never got them. Similar to the last entry, for the release of Angry Birds Go, a bunch of prototype plushes were made but never released. But the reason for this being cancelled was because the Angry Birds franchise was starting to decline and becoming unpopular in the eyes of the public. I don't know if this is the real reason, but if it is, ouch. These plushes look cool. Not as good as the Star Wars ones, but they look decent. If you like these plushes and want to own them, be prepared to spend a lot of money. Seriously, sometimes I look stupid looking at the prices for these. This entry is referring to a specific bootleg plush that was featured on the channel LuigiFan0001. It's a small bootleg plush of the red bird, but purple, and it was released in the early 2010s. Not much information is known about this plush, it's just a weird bootleg that became a joke in the community. Mighty Mojo Toys is a toy company responsible for the reprint of the Angry Birds Commonwealth plushes. The reprint happened in 2022, but their quality wasn't the greatest, unfortunately. It just wasn't the same anymore. This is one of the rarest and most sought after plushes of the Commonwealth collection. There's two variants of the construction hat pick plush, one with a hard plastic hat and one with a soft hat, but that one is extremely rare and expensive. There's not much to say about this plush. Ruffle was a streaming platform released in 2014 by Rovio. It was iOS exclusive, and if you played games like Angry Birds Space or Bad Piggies, you would find it on the menu. The service featured original content, but it was a small selection, with around 6 shows in total. In 2017, the service was discontinued and the shows were privated on YouTube. Relude was Rovio's original name when it was founded in 2003. During this time, Rovio, or should I say Relude, sported a blue logo. This name never caught on, and in January 2005, Relude finally changed their name to Rovio Mobile. No, Freddie Mercury isn't a playable character in Angry Birds, but you know what's the next best thing? A Freddie Mercury lookalike. This entry is referring to the Angry Birds animation Freddy for a Day. This animation was made to commemorate Freddie Mercury's birthday in 2013, and it features Chuck cosplaying as Freddy himself. For a period of time, he was also featured in the loading screen for the Freddy for a Day tournament in Angry Birds Friends. Unfortunately, he was never playable. This is a 4-issue comic miniseries that features the Angry Birds cast in a superhero form. All of the issues were released on the same day, April 3rd, 2015, in digital form. Around 2016, all issues were finally released physically. This was also the first time we saw the birds and pigs with limbs. Weird. I couldn't find anything about this one, so it's either a hoax, or it's from an obscure interview or concept art, cause I couldn't find it. The homing bird is a power-up in Angry Birds Seasons that replaces the current bird on the slingshot with the homing bird. It's just red with a helmet. He can home in on a pig that is closer to him. In this state, the homing bird cuts through any structure, although you can only use him once per level. This is a 2011 video uploaded by YouTuber HisMario123. That's a weird name, buddy. This video consists of a slideshow of random images of unofficial Angry Birds LEGO builds. Keep in mind that this was before Angry Birds Connects and the actual LEGO Angry Birds came out, even if they look completely different. The video currently sits with 4 million views, so there is a high chance you've probably seen this one. More than a decade later, and it's still one of the best videos of all time. I think? I'll just ask the man himself.
Oh hey, don't mind me. Just checking to see if LEGO Angry Birds still has 4 million views. Don't worry, it does. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and I've been asked to talk about LEGO Angry Birds. This is my legacy. So, LEGO Angry Birds. Funny little slideshow I made when I was 6. Don't tell YouTube that, because you're not supposed to have a YouTube channel at that age. The idea behind the original video, besides from the fact that I wanted to show off these LEGO Angry Birds that I found on Google Images, was that it was meant to look like you're playing like the mobile game Angry Birds, but in LEGO form. That's why it starts with like the title screen and then the level select and all that. That was the idea behind it. And then it got 4 million views, and I posted it within my first month on YouTube. Granted, it didn't get 4 million views straight away. By the end of 2011, it had maybe like 200,000 or something, if the YouTube analytics are correct. But eventually, it just kept going, and I have not had a video get even close to that ever since. But there's a little more to the story. See, around the time it hit like 2.34 million views or whatever, I made LEGO Angry Birds Updated. and that did okay. I mean, it didn't get even 100,000, but it was still within the tens of thousands or something like that. And then I did Lego Angry Birds .mp4, which was a part of a series that I made called .mp4. I was 12 when .mp4 came out, and then I made Lego Angry Birds 4. This one I returned to my roots and made it in Windows Live Movie Maker, just like the original, and updated. .mp4 was made in Camtasia Studio. 1, 2, and 4 were made in a Windows Live Movie Maker. I did Lego Angry Birds the movie in 2017 on April Fool's Day. 2017 was a big year for Lego Angry Birds because I met some other YouTubers. You can see their comments probably at the top, and I told them about it and they thought it was funny that I was 6 when I made it. So anyway, back to the movie. Lego Angry Birds the movie, incredible. And then after that I did Lego Angry Birds 6, and then I did Lego Angry Birds 6.5, no, I did Lego Angry Birds 6, Return of the King, and then I did Lego Angry Birds 6.5, which is just 6 but with All-Star playing over it, from Shrek, and then, I actually need to check the history, hold on. Oh, yes, okay, I'm just checking the official playlist. So Lego Angry Birds 6.5 was called And They Don't Stop Coming, because that was the Shrek one. Then I did Lego Angry Birds 7 just because I thought it was funny. And then I did Lego Angry Birds 8, which was actually an alternate cut of the first Lego Angry Birds that I made when I was 6, and I just unprivated it and titled it Lego Angry Birds 8. And then for Lego Angry Birds 9, I did Lego Angry Birds the Movie 2. That's right, we did a sequel. And then my camera died. And then I did Lego Angry Birds... Sorry, what did we get to? We got to Lego Angry Birds the Movie 2, then afterwards I did Lego Angry Birds 9.5 because I was watching this other YouTuber and they mentioned Lego Angry Birds and I thought, oh, that's what I did. So I made Lego Angry Birds 9.5. It's also edited like a David Dobrik vlog thing. Is weird. And then I did Lego Angry Birds X on the 10-year anniversary, and it's fine. Everything from .mp4 onwards was a joke. Lego Angry Birds 2 was made for views though.
There you go. This one is a throwback. To understand this entry, we have to go back to 2012. If you're an older fan, you've probably seen this Arabic parody video called Angry Revolutionaries. It's a very well done animation, despite not knowing what they're saying or what the heck any of this means. Whatever, the video begins with the normal cutscene of the game, but the only difference is that Hal is dead, and this probably traumatized some people that watched this video when they were younger. Not me though. This is a 2011 comedy skit made by Kevin LaShawn. It has almost 20 million views and I almost forgot about it before making the iceberg. The nostalgia really hits with this one. I recommend giving it a watch. It's only a minute long. Bowser123 is a YouTube channel who is still active and made videos about Angry Birds, with some other popular franchises in the mix, like SpongeBob. Nowadays the channel posts about Teen Titans Go and Sonic the Hedgehog, with the same idea of mixing other franchises in the mix. But lately, they've started posting brainrot content slop on YouTube Shorts. What a shame. The Angry Birds franchise actually has some theme parks. There's Angry Birds Activity Park in Finland, and they have another in Spain. Heck, they even have Angry Birds themed Topgolf. But the biggest theme park of them all is Angry Birds World in Qatar, and seeing photos of this place is absolutely crazy. This is likely referring to physical Angry Birds stores that existed in the early 2010s. This was a chain of retail stores that began in 2012 with the first location in Finland, and it sold stuff like plushes, toys, shirts, and other merchandise. Unexpectedly, the store shut down in 2014 and the other locations in 2015. Some Angry Birds shops still exist, but they're gift shops and they mostly don't sell the same stuff. This entry is referring to a purple feather sprite that went unused on the original Angry Birds. These were rumored to belong to Terrans, but they clearly weren't. These were from someone else that never made the cut. And it's no surprise that later down the line, the first concept art of the purple bird was shown to the public in the Rovio Museum. This was a music track that was discovered in the game files of Angry Birds Space. The meaning of this music is unknown, but judging by the name, it looks like it was used by the devs during testing of boss stages, but who knows, it was probably made for the playtesters to have something to jam to. George was the first version of Red, and the very first Angry Bird. He's very similar to Red, just poorly made and lacking some features. It's genuinely impressive how most of Red's design didn't change from George. Rovio was cooking back then. This rather peculiar egg was part of a collaboration between Angry Birds and, you guessed it, Intel. An Intel-themed Angry Birds collaboration was planned with 5 exclusive Golden Egg levels and were supposed to release on Angry Birds Seasons, but unfortunately, this collab never officially released, and those 5 levels got stuck on limbo. And thus, that Intel Egg sprite went unused. There's a scene on the 2015 movie Ted 2 where Ted is in court. He gets mad at the jury and to blow off some steam, he boots up Angry Birds on his phone. That was one of the best things I've seen in the movie as a kid. I was an Angry Birds fan, and the fact that the franchise got so huge that it appears on Hollywood movies is insane, and 1 year later we got the actual movie, so that was fun. The removal of the old games, poor business decisions, alienating its audience with bad games. These and other reasons are why we don't see Angry Birds anymore. After the first film, it was downhill. Even after the Sega acquisition, things don't look much better. But I blame Rovio for that. And with the recent situation of Rovio using AI art of Angry Birds in various cases, I think Rovio is not getting out of the pit anytime soon. On April 1st, 2012, Rovio made a post on the Angry Birds social media accounts of an image with the caption, "Coming soon." And in that image we can see a skunk-looking bird silhouette with alien antennas. Later that same day, the Angry Birds Twitter account released a tip to unlock this new character, and that was to pop precisely 22 pigs on the main menu. And this, of course, was never actually true, and the skunk bird was just a joke made by Rovio. What? This may be referring to Angry Birds Go's campaign or Angry Birds Epic's campaign. I have no idea what this entry means. I'm sorry. There's multiple Angry Birds references on The Simpsons, it's insane. My favorite is definitely the one where Homer is playing Vengeful Pigs. It's Angry Birds but with swapped roles. Something tells me that the people behind The Simpsons love this game. Okay, from my understanding, Cluster Bomb is a fan-made bird that looks just like Bomb, but his ability is to divide into small bomb birds, just like the Bluebird, and track down nearby pigs and blow them up. Sure, not bad. There is not much information about the sequel to Angry Birds Rio, but I assume it was supposed to be themed around Rio 2. In the end, we ended up receiving an update with Rio 2 content to Angry Birds Rio instead of a full-blown game. I'm just assuming, of course. This entry refers to early builds and unused content of Angry Birds Space. There are 6 known prototypes of Space, with 5 being archived, and here's some interesting things that have been found. Originally, instead of getting the Icebird, we would get the Snowball Bird, and since its design is similar to Bomb's, I assume Space Bomb would also not exist. A new character called the Black Hole Bird was found, and it looks interesting. It would later be reworked as the Space Egg. An early design of the Laser Bird was also found, which looks similar, just without his visor. And the final character we have is the Drill Bird, a space version of the Green Bird that would drill through structures. Cool. That's just the characters though, there's a lot of stuff found on these builds, so if you're interested, make sure to visit the wiki for more information. Tiny Thief was a 2013 mobile game published by Rovio and developed by 5 Ants. It's a very different game from Angry Birds, that being we don't control the birds, but a thief, a tiny one in fact. The game's objective is completing missions like stealing objects, freeing animals, or people, only without being caught. It's a simple stealth game, but it was discontinued and removed from stores in 2016. During an interview in 2012, Shigeru Miyamoto, yes, the Mario, Zelda and Pikmin guy, admitted that he wished he designed Angry Birds. It makes sense, Angry Birds is such a simple and easy game to play that it captured the hearts of millions, just like some of Miyamoto's creations, so of course he wanted another icon on his name. The 2014 animated series Angry Birds Stella ends with Gale, the main villain of the series, turning into gold after an encounter with Stella. But after that, Stella brings Gale back to her normal form and she launches the golden egg that caused all of this over the ocean. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the series and it finished with 26 episodes. So there's that. The Celebrity Birds are caricatures of famous celebrities in the form of Angry Birds. Some include Don Cheadle from Space Jam 2, Danny DeVito from Batman Returns, and Matt Damon. These were included in some ads for a tournament on Angry Birds Friends, but some other celebrity birds were created along the years. Shakira, Rush, Obama, there's a lot of them. On the topic of the celebrity birds, one stands up from everyone else. Dr. Pig Respect is a pig based on the streamer Dr. Disrespect, and if you know the drama that happens surrounding him in 2024, you know why everyone calls him the Predator Pig. Enough said. Jeff Morrow was a kids channel that did a lot of Angry Birds toys reviews. They were the best. If I show you on the screen some thumbnails and clips, you might recognize them. Nowadays, the channel is mostly inactive and they no longer post toys reviews. But it's to be expected. Well, kids just grow up. But I'm happy they stopped and didn't get the same fate as Ryan's toys reviews. Piggy Island's theme song is a track played when browsing the world map on Angry Birds Transformers. Nothing crazy. These toys were a kind of collectible based on the Angry Birds characters, but they were made out of rubber with water inside of them. If you've seen that clip of Eventube flying in space throwing Angry Birds, yeah, those were Mashems. I had 3 of these, a red, a blue and Matilda ones, but the water burst out of all of them, unfortunately. I remember they made some based on Angry Birds Space and those looked so much cooler. You can't buy them anymore, but I think that's for the best. This was an official game made by Rovio to promote Cheetos in Turkey and Russia in 2012. It's very similar to collaboration games like Angry Birds Volcano, but Cheetos themed. The only downside to this game was its exclusivity with Facebook, and it had correlations with Angry Birds Chrome. It was later discontinued in 2013, but in the same year, Angry Birds Cheetos 2 was released, and that one can still be played on Flashpoint. This is an Angry Birds card game that follows the same rules of rock, paper, scissors, except those are replaced with stones, slingshots and TNT respectively. This series includes 180 collectible cards, in which are included gold, silver and holographic cards. I had some of these and they were okay, nothing special. There was an event in 2015 to celebrate the launch of Angry Birds 2 in Moscow, and there was also a festival dedicated to the franchise in 2013. I don't understand why, but Russia loves Angry Birds. Flipnote Studio was a program that would let you make animations and share them with the world on your Nintendo DS. And like any popular thing on Earth, people made Angry Birds animations. I think this entry is just referring to Angry Birds animations in general, nothing in particular. Angry Birds Heikki was an online game about the racer Heikki Kovalainen. He's a Finnish F1 racer, so the game replaces some assets with F1 stuff like tires, champion cups, etc. This featured a new ability, the Heikki ability, which swapped your current bird with Terrence with an F1 helmet. Simple as that. And you could only activate it with a code found in the Heikki Power Kagan program on Facebook. The game was released in June 2012 and shut down on the end of 2012. The game was thought to be lost for some time, but fortunately it was found and properly archived. This is an obscure character that only made an appearance on an equal obscure game, Angry Birds Philadelphia Eagles, a 2012 game featuring a collaboration with the NFL. The Mighty Philadelphia Eagle works similarly to the Mighty Eagle, but is summoned with a pigskin instead of the can. I guess everyone can be an Angry Bird now, even the Philadelphia Eagles logo. In 2012, National Geographic released an Angry Birds themed book called National Geographic Angry Birds, Fed Up, Feathered and Furious. It features fun stuff such as profiles of the Angry Birds characters and real birds around the world. It's obviously ironic, but it does give an insight on the profiles of the characters of Angry Birds. Alright, this entry refers to... Wait, subscribe? Subscribe to what? Subscribe to what? Now let's move over to the bottom of the iceberg. If things weren't obscure enough already, this time they're gonna get more obscure and niche. Coxcocker 2, aka Nigel, is the main villain of the Rio movies, and also Angry Birds Rio. And for the release of Angry Birds Rio, the people from Rovio picked a random clip from the Rio movie and added Angry Birds characters into it. And since this clip is focused on Nigel's song, it got the name Nigel Mashup. My Rio DVD had this video and I watched it hundreds of times. It's great. Originally, the sardine can that's used to summon the Mighty Eagle was a mouse called the Mighty Mouse. The design is nothing like an Angry Birds character, and it's kind of understandable why they changed it. The can is 100 times better and more iconic. After Angry Birds Rio and Star Wars, people began speculating what the next collaboration game would be. and the main candidate was Angry Birds Avengers or Angry Birds Marvel. That would have been cool. It all began because of this image, which is very well made, but me and alongside many other kids thought this was official material, which it isn't. Angry Birds Avengers never existed, but Hulk Greenbird would have been cool. This is referring to all the collaborations and promotions that were forgotten and sometimes even lost to time. This includes collabs such as Angry Birds Cheetos, Angry Birds Coca-Cola, and some others I've already mentioned. Maybe the title of this is a little too ambiguous, cause believe it or not, there's a lot of Russian bootlegs of the Angry Birds game, but there is one that sticks out from the rest. This is a bootleg 8-bit version of Angry Birds made for bootleg consoles that disguise themselves as modern consoles, but they're actually NES simulators. But I digress. It has 20 levels and plays just like the original, but you only have Redbird, the levels are simpler because of the hardware's limitation, and it's much slower. Not the best way to play Angry Birds, if it wasn't obvious. Angry Birds The 4D Experience or Angry Birds The Ride is a 4D movie experience created for theme park attractions. The movie has two versions, a 10-minute version for 4D theaters and a 5-minute version for motion simulator rides. It's a semi-obscure piece of Angry Birds media. No, Angry Birds never had a collab with Pokemon. This entry is most likely referring to the 2011 video by Fun Video TV, Pokemon starring Angry Birds 3D animated game mashup spoof. This is your classic Fun Video TV production, with the birds launching themselves and destroying the buildings, but this time with the help of Lugia and dragon-winged Larias. Weird. Angry Birds Pokemon can also be referring to the countless fan art and fan-made content between these two series. I think that's about it. In 2011, Angry Birds released for the PlayStation Portable, the PSP. It was released as a PSP mini title, which means it was a part of a line of casual games on the PSP. The port only had the first 4 episodes, from Poached eggs to the big setup, and it had all the classic icons and imagery. Not a bad way to play the classic game. This one is weird, cause this game is a knockoff of Angry Birds, but it also inspired an official Angry Birds game. Let me explain. The Hungry Pigs was a 2011 mobile app that advertised itself as a prequel to the original Angry Birds, despite not being made by the official team. This game's a 2D platformer where you launch the pig and then he rolls trying to find the eggs and dodge the birds. Doesn't this sound familiar? Yup, this game predates Bad Piggies by 1 year and the similarities between these two are subtle, but you can see the inspiration. Now, for the record, I'm not saying Rovio copied Hungry Pigs. I believe this was just a coincidence, but who knows. For the 10th anniversary of Angry Birds, Rovio ran a campaign called Bring the Anger. During this event, Rovio made a partnership with UNICEF in which if the players popped 10 million pigs in Angry Birds 2 by December 1st, 2019, $100,000 would be donated to UNICEF. The event was a success and ran 2 more times in 2020 and 2021. Now, where does Mr. Beast take place in all of this? It was sponsored by Rovio in one of his videos in part of the Bring the Anger campaign. Oh, and he's also gonna be a part of the third movie's cast. We don't know what role he's gonna play, but if I had to take a guess, it's gonna be a minor one. In early 2021, these images started popping up on the internet and quickly became a big meme for a week or two. The meme takes the Sam Spratt realistic Angry Birds drawings and tags them with random lines, such as, "I hear that you play Among Us. Even in the coldest nights, I eat my own cum." And of course, the most popular version, "You either a smart fella or a fart smeller." There's many variations of the fart smeller phrase, but this one is by far the most used. This was an attraction in the Sarkaniemi Adventure Park in Tampere, Finland. This was the first Angry Birds theme park and it featured attractions such as a drop tower and carnival games. The attraction opened in 2012 and it had been in operation for 11 years, with it being closed in 2023, due to the Angry Birds license being expired. Another location located at Thorpe Park in Surrey, England, also existed, and like the prior, it was also shut down in 2023. And fun fact, the Angry Birds 4D experience that I mentioned before was hosted exclusively on the England location, until, well, its final day. Angry Birds Starburst is a 2016 web game that, surprisingly, is still available to play. It's an advert to Starburst candy. It only had 1 level and plays similarly to Angry Birds 2, though the movements and the animation is very stiff. It's a very simple game and honestly, isn't as fun or interesting as the old web games. This was the third installment in the Angry Birds Breakfast series, but what makes this one different is that it was a web game instead of a CD-ROM. This game was overlooked by many people, making it the most obscure entry in the Breakfast trilogy. Outside from that, yeah, it's not too much different from the other two games. Angry Revolutionaries is a 2012 video uploaded by Carabish on YouTube. It's an animation featuring the birds talking and we have this weird looking king pig. I think it has some political meaning, but it's in Arabic and even if I had a translation, I probably wouldn't understand the real meaning. Also, this is the infamous video that included Hal's dead body I've previously talked about. Similar to the last entry, this is a 2011 video uploaded by YouTube user Igor Zigan. This is a parody animation of both Angry Birds and the Three Little Pigs story, and it has that old 40s animation style. This one is also a political cartoon, using the pigs to characterize the former presidents of Tunisia and Egypt, and the bluebirds as tweets. I didn't know it was a political cartoon. I thought the animation looked nice and it was Angry Birds. The video has 3 million views, so I'm definitely not alone in this. Prozvyazbank is a Russian bank, and in 2012 they introduced Angry Birds themed MasterCard debit cards. The cards came with different designs. We had one with the Angry Birds space ski art, one with red on the slingshot, and many more. Since 2014, Burger King has partnered up with Rovio to release Angry Birds Kids Meal toys, many times. In 2014 we had one for Angry Birds Go and Angry Birds Stella. In 2017 we received toys based on the movie 1 year after it released. Better late than ever, huh? I remember this one and I had the Bomb and Mighty Eagle toys. And in 2021 we got simple plushies of the characters. The last collaboration happened the same year, and with the constant downfall of the Angry Birds franchise, I doubt we'll ever get kids meal toys again. This one is interesting. The Chrome Dimension is an episode on both Angry Birds Chrome and Angry Birds Google+, and to unlock the levels in said episode, you need to find Chrome symbols hidden throughout normal levels. The Chrome symbols and the levels work similarly to the Golden Eggs from vanilla Angry Birds, but I gotta be honest, compared to the Golden Egg levels, these are more basic and uncreative. No pick pile in this one. Chrome and Google Plus had its own set of levels, with Chrome having 21 levels and Plus having only 7. Pretty cool. After the Sonic.exe creepypasta hype, fan-made.exe versions of popular games appeared online, and Angry Birds was no exception. It's Angry Birds but cursed and spooky. Woo. This one is lame. If you're interested in playing Angry Birds.exe, dude, you're just wasting your time. If you were an Angry Birds fan in the early 2010s and frequently watched Angry Birds videos on YouTube, or you were one of those unfortunate people that bought those bootleg Angry Birds DVDs, you probably have come across a weird Chinese Angry Birds 3D animation. It's about Red, Chuck, Bluebird and Hal creating a plan to defeat the pigs. Not much information is known about this animation. The only thing we know is that it's Chinese, unofficial, and was featured on bootleg DVDs. That's about it. It's a weird piece of Angry Birds media, but I kinda like the style. I highly recommend checking it out. It's fun. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS feature a mode called Target Blast, where your goal is to launch a ticking bomb to the targets inside the structures. Now, was it inspired by Angry Birds? That's debatable, but I can see the devs being inspired by the mobile game to create this mode. I've never heard of this one before researching for the Iceberg, but the idea is cool. Angry Birds Rock in Rio was a crowd game shown on the event Rock in Rio USA 2015. It was your classic Angry Birds gameplay, but to pull the slingshot back, you needed a crowd of people to shout. That's pretty nice. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, the game was never featured again on future Rock in Rio events. The level editor is an in-game tool used by developers of Angry Birds to make, you guessed it, levels. This tool was only available on some games with the classic formula until Angry Birds Star Wars 2. That's cool, but if the players also had access to that mode, it would have been so much better. During the development of Angry Birds Star Wars and the new Jenga toys, a prototype commercial was made. It's more of a thriller than a TV commercial, really, but what stands out from this ad and was omitted from the final release was the inclusion of telepods on Angry Birds Star Wars 1. In the end, we only got the Jenga toys and telepods would only make their debut on the series in Angry Birds Star Wars 2. In 2014, leaked documents revealed that the NSA the American National Security Agency, were targeting personal data from various apps, primarily Angry Birds. Since Angry Birds is mostly played by kids, Rovio received major backlash. And Rovio, being Rovio, responded with ignorance and said that they had no knowledge about the NSA, which was bullshit. Jurassic Pork is the 14th episode of Angry Birds Classic, and this entry is saying that it's unfinished. I couldn't find much information about that statement, but apparently, this episode doesn't include any golden eggs, and it was the last episode of Angry Birds Classic before Rovio started focusing more on the modern games. So maybe, that's the reason it was never fully completed. Angry Birds was a parody mod created by Timek in 2021. It was a mod of the original Angry Birds but with meme elements and other random stuff. The mod was abandoned and cancelled in 2022, so since then, it didn't get any more updates. I think the latest version is available on GameJolt, so you can check it out if you want. Talking Red the Bird was a parody unofficial game that mocked both Angry Birds and the Talking Friends games. This game became a meme because of how absurd the game is. The game never actually existed and was only made into reality by fans, somewhat recently with the web game, so now you can finally play the actual Talking Red. Crush the Castle is a 2009 Flash game which inspired the gameplay of Angry Birds. Like Angry Birds, this is a physics game where you launch rocks with a catapult to destroy the structures, buildings. This game came out mere months before Angry Birds, and it was a clear inspiration to it. Everyone knows that. As the name implies, this is an Angry Birds creepypasta, and finding information about this one was quite difficult. Apparently, this creepypasta has a more straightforward name, Lost Angry Birds DVD, and with that, it was much easier to find a creepypasta. This is your classic creepypasta, where a kid finds a cursed Angry Birds Toons DVD and finds some spooky and scary shit. It's something about the birds being tortured and killed, and apparently, the map from Dora the Explorer and Daddy Pig from Peppa Pig is in this. Sure, I don't care. Reading this creepypasta was an emotional roller coaster, I gotta tell you that. I'm not sure what this entry is talking about, cause I couldn't find anything proving that the gameplay featured in the original trailer is from a beta build. But while searching about this topic, I found something more interesting. A small clip was discovered of a prototype version of the original cinematic trailer of the 2009 Angry Birds. And here we can see a completely different design for the pigs and Helmet Pig, cause he was never included in the release trailer. I just think it was a neat thing to share. Gotta love these bootleggers. Ill-Tempered Birds was a series of off-brand pencil toppers that were sold in gacha machines. As you can see, they look nothing like the real thing, and come on, why does this exist? We already talked about Angry Birds Tazos and all the variants of the promotion, but in 2011, when PepsiCo ran the Tazos campaign in Latin America, a game called Angry Birds Vuela Tazos released. This game was similar to other promotional games like Angry Birds Volcano, and included 6 exclusive levels, with the last 3 being locked behind codes that came with PepsiCo products, like Pepsi, Sabritas, etc. The game featured competitions in which you could have won merch, but the last one was in 2012. The game is still available with all 6 levels unlocked, although it's only playable in PC. Angry Birds Legends was the 2020 RPG game that never ended up releasing. Similar to Angry Birds Epic, it was a turn-based RPG, but in this one, the birds and pigs teamed up with humans? Really, Rovio? The game was soft-launched in early 2020, and even in a beta state, it had microtransactions and battle passes. Great! Due to an unsuccessful test launch, the game was cancelled and the server shut down in 2021. Bomb Bomb is an unused character found in the files of Angry Birds Seasons and Angry Birds Trilogy. Much isn't known about this character, except it looks similar to Bomb but red and black and smaller. And it's speculated that his ability was to split into 3, like the blues, and explode upon impact. No one knows why this character exists, nor why he was cut. Remember that meme of a 4-panel comic featuring the trollface giving a tutorial of something? Well, someone made an Angry Birds version of that. Dubbed How to Troll the Pigs, this is a 2020 meme made by M-Inc Official on YouTube. The first step to troll the pigs is to become a bird, step 2 is getting your eggs stolen by the pigs, step 3 is getting revenge by attacking the pig's fort, and step 4, and the punchline of the meme, is forced to eat the pig's insides. Big fiction. This was a YouTube channel that posted weird animations of popular children's properties back in the day, like Five Nights at Freddy's, Dragon Ball Z, and Angry Birds. This was our brain rot. These animations were similar to Fun Video TV, but 2D and way more random. Some of these get really weird and it's hard to explain what's happening. The weirdest ones are the ones mixing Angry Birds with IPs that you wouldn't expect, like American Dad and Cowboy Bebop. Personally, I didn't watch this channel as much as Fun Video TV. I think I only saw 2 or 3 videos of Srilame Studio. Most of his videos seem to have been posted past my Angry Birds phase. The original channel is still active, although the videos aren't available. If you want to watch the old videos, there's an archive channel that posted a bunch of them, and I highly recommend it for funs and giggles. The wonderful company's Wonderful Pistachios collaborated with Angry Birds to release what? Another web game. Great. Like Angry Birds Vuelatazos, the game included 5 exclusive levels with 3 being unlocked via code that came with Wonderful Pistachios. The main gimmick with this one is golden pistachios appearing on the special levels, and when destroyed, the player would be eligible to win a prize money of up to $25,000. Never heard of this collab before doing research. It goes to show how obscure it is. This was a 2014 web game released in the UK. To play this game, you had to obtain a code that came with Fruit Shoot Angry Birds Edition drinks, and those were exclusive to the UK. Not much information is known about Angry Birds' skills, but we know it played similarly to Amazing Alex, but Angry Birds themed. Aside from some screenshots, short clips and promotional material, the game is lost media. In 2015, Rovio collabed with Kellogg's for the release of Fruit Loops Bloopers, a special episode for Angry Birds Space. Only during this episode, the Mighty Eagle is replaced with Toucan Sam, Fruit Loops mascot. When activated, you launch a silver spoon and then a huge Toucan Sam is summoned and destroys everything in sight. This episode went all out with Fruit Loops imagery everywhere you look. Pretty good for a 5-level episode exclusive to select regions. If you're a longtime Angry Birds fan, you certainly remember the original main menu of Angry Birds Classic. This menu with the big Rovio logo and the sunrise background was only used on the first couple of versions of the game until 2010, when it was replaced with the one we all know and love. Although I think the old one is a bit better. Same with the old menu, this was the original Angry Birds logo used from 2009 to 2010. This one used the Feast of Flesh font, interesting name, and it was used in early merchandise. I like the 2010 logo, but honestly, I think the old one had more personality. I just don't understand why they got rid of the yellow outline and the feathers. This is likely referring to the Samba Burst ability from Angry Birds Rio. The Samba Burst was a paid power-up exclusive to Angry Birds Rio, and when launched, all nearby structures danced to the rhythm before going back to normal after a short period of time. At some point it was featured on the apps icon and some plush tags. Not much to add to this one. This one disappointed me, cause you think this is about a parody Angry Birds game made by PETA, but unfortunately, it's not. Surprisingly, PETA never did something against Angry Birds. They did for Super Mario 3D Land, they did for Cooking Mama, Angry Birds was obviously the next target, right? The closest thing I could find to an official PETA statement on Angry Birds was a 2011 article about people with Angry Birds costumes protesting in front of a KFC. There is an article on the Angry Birds Fanon Wiki about the cancelled 2012 parody PETA Angry Birds game, but it's the Fanon Wiki, so it's unofficial. Okay, this one's cool. Apparently, there's a special edition Vodafone Smart 2 with the Angry Birds Space key art plastered in the back. It's simple, kinda crap if I'm being honest, but it has charm. This entry can be referring to a lot of things. It could be referring to this 2011 video called Angry Birds Parody, where the birds and pigs use guns to kill each other. Maybe this 2012 video by CC Mega Productions called Real Life Angry Birds with Guns, where our main guy uses a revolver, is the actual video. There's so many videos about Angry Birds with guns, but these two are the most popular answers. The Space Egg is a power-up from Angry Birds Space and more recently, Angry Birds Reloaded. This is a special item that when used and launched, creates a vortex that pulls nearby objects. The Space Egg was initially introduced as a playable character on the Special Egg levels, but only for a limited time. Fun fact, despite being an item, it received merchandise, including its own mashems. In the early days, when Angry Birds had just come out on iOS and Android, Rovio used something called the Crystal program, which was a way to track achievements, challenges, leaderboards, and social networks, since their games were published by ClickGamer. If you played the original Angry Birds in 2010 or 2011 on mobile, there's a chance your app icon looked a bit different with the crystal and the rainbow stripe on the corner. Well, that meant it was a part of the Crystal program. Since then, Rovio switched to Game Center and Google Play around 2010 and 2011, and the Crystal program no longer exists. Angry Birds Crystal was so short-lived that it was kinda hard to get any information on it. But I salute the Angry Birds Wiki for being an amazing database of the franchise, and without it, this iceberg would have taken me a lot longer to research. Now we're in Tier 6, the Dark Waters. The iceberg is already above us and we have nothing but Angry Birds. Gerard the Redbird is an Angry Birds-centric YouTube channel. It started in 2014 and it still sees frequent uploads. This channel is known for the Angry Birds Fantastic Adventure series, which I've never heard about until now. Yeah, this came out in 2015, I really didn't care much about Angry Birds anymore. This is a YouTube channel that makes parody animations based on new and classic video games. And in 2011 they posted their first animation based on our beloved Angry Birds. The video is titled Dorkly Bits Angry Birds Strategy, and it's a fun watch, truly a product of their time. From this parody animation, more Angry Birds videos were later made. Currently, the channel is still active, posts frequently, and still gets decent views, though it's been a while since the last Angry Birds video. Little Timmy is a pretty obscure Angry Birds character. He's a small pig with a cap, and his first and only appearance was on the Angry Birds Christmas comic from December 2011. His appearance was very brief, but he made it into the iceberg, and that's what matters. The Squawking Dead is a parody animation of both Angry Birds and The Walking Dead. The video was posted on December 2013 and garnered a lot of attention, amassing 13 million views, but I feel it has fallen into obscurity. I never watched it and I never saw anyone talk about it, so it probably slipped the mind of many people. Which is odd, cause for a kid, this animation is pretty gory and even traumatizing, with the pigs and birds killing each other in gory ways, but then again, it's just an animation. This refers to Matilda's original design with the toon's art style before her more female redesign. This early design made its first and only appearance in the outro of the Year of the Dragon animation from Angry Birds Seasons. This design is loyal to the character's first appearance, but I'm glad we got the redesign, it makes Matilda more unique. In 2011, Angry Birds was made playable in TVs for the first time via the Roku 2 digital player, which came pre-installed with every Roku 2 system. This was such a big of a deal that a limited time Angry Birds Roku 2 XS exists. The games that came to Roku devices were the original Angry Birds, Seasons, Rio, and Space. But the fun wouldn't last for long, cause only 3 years later in 2014, the series was discontinued, but people who got the game before 2014 could still play it. It was certainly a novelty playing Angry Birds on the big screen, but it gets boring too quickly. Angry Birds is the mobile game, not something to play on a TV. This was a planned sequel to the episode Red's Mighty Feathers. Some material and sprites can be found on the game's files, but they remain unused. It's speculated what happened to Part 3, but we'll probably never know the correct answer. Angry Birds McDonald's was a web game with collaboration with none other than McDonald's. The game released in September 2012 exclusively in China. Like every other Angry Birds web game, this one only has 6 levels, but to play all of them, you need to register with an email. All 6 levels have a custom McDonald's background and McDonald's-themed obstacles, things such as a Big Mac, French fries, and more. The game is not officially available anymore, but it's properly archived so you can still play it, with no problem. On Angry Birds Classic, if you got a non-release build, the player's account ID, game environment, and customer string were shown on the game's credits. That's pretty much it. Hungry Pigs 2 Cal, or just Angry Birds Cal, is a 2011 animation made by Rovio, and it was shown at the Assembly Summer 2011 event. The animation shows a minion pig playing a game called Hungry Pigs 2, a parody of Angry Birds and the namesake of the video. Meanwhile, a big screen appears showing the text, "Kill all audio and lights," but the pig does not in fact shut the game off. So he gets jumped by the birds, and the text "Kill all audio and pigs" appears on the screen. This animation is also the origin of the troll face pig meme. The video was never officially released by Rovio, so it sits rightfully so in the bottom of the iceberg. I was an Angry Birds fanatic during that time, and I never knew the existence of this until now. Angry Birds Lotus F1 Team was another web game, but unlike the other ones, Lotus F1 is playable via Facebook. This web game contained new levels and advertisements to the Lotus F1 team in the background. It only features 3 levels and an image of Iceberg, despite not being playable. Angry Birds Lotus F1 team came out in 2012 and we have practically no information on it. And we also don't know when the game's servers shut down. This web game is one heck of a mystery. This is a claymation parody animation posted by Tales of Isolation in 2013. In this video, our main guy and Mr. T, for some reason, brutally murdered the Angry Birds, the pigs, the annoying orange, and Miley Cyrus? Okay, guys, what were we watching? But yep, yet another gory Angry Birds animation. This one currently has 50,000 views, so maybe you skipped this one back in the day. I certainly did. During the development of the fighting game Tekken 7, characters such as KFC mascot Colonel Sanders and Redbird from Angry Birds were considered as playable characters. Can you imagine beating the shit out of Heihachi or King with Red the Angry Bird? That would have been a fun collaboration. Alright, so rhythm is a subgenre of dubstep and shares the same name as a Jamaican genre that inspired it. It originated in the UK in the early 2010s and is popular with DJs. Since this was the early 2010s, 2012-2013, people couldn't resist the urge to mix rhythm with Angry Birds. Dubstep music pieces solely about Angry Birds. Glad we left this in 2013. This entry refers to the second level of the episode Pig Days of Angry Birds Seasons, titled Comic-Con. The exclamation mark is necessary. The Terrence part comes from the bird selection, since it only consists of Terrence, Chuck, and Wingman. And also because there's posters below the slingshot featuring the San Diego Comic-Con logo with Terrence's face on it. By accessing the debug menu on the PC version of Bad Piggies, a weird picture of the King Pig ordering something to Ross, the MC of Bad Piggies, with the caption "Hello Peter" written below. If you don't know who Peter is, fret not, nobody does. The debug menu screen is interchangeable with the player's name, so Peter is just a guy who took this image and uploaded it onto the internet. Potężny Orzeł is the Polish name for mighty eagle, but the literal translation of the word potężny is powerful and not exactly mighty. So when the Angry Birds movie came out, the character's name was renamed to Mokarny Orzeł, the correct translation of mighty eagle. Supposedly, this was a test audio file found in Angry Birds 2. It's a 1-second audio clip where you can hear a female voice saying debug. This one was most likely used for testing purposes. Nothing that deep. Green Matilda is actually a reference to Matilda's name in the game's files, since her codename is Bird Green. And not only that, we have visual proof of her original prototype design, and it looks nothing like the Matilda we got. Green entries back to back. Lucky me. A collab between Green Day and Angry Birds actually happened in 2012, but surprise, it wasn't another web game. It was a special episode on Angry Birds Friends. It consisted of 20 levels and 2 grenade levels, which were basically like Golden Egg levels. The episode was removed in December of 2012, and even though it didn't offer much, we got sprites of Green Day as pigs. So... Vanada's Angry Birds, also known as Angry Birds Radox, is a small web game advertising Radox body wash. Yup, they got to that point. Upon entering the website, you are greeted with Red asking for help cause the pig stole his body wash? It plays like you'd expect, but way worse. The game only has one level and doesn't work properly. Structures just disappear all of a sudden and the pigs just refuse to die. It's really bad. It's no shock that the game wasn't made by Rovio in-house, but Unilever. Yes, the hygiene company. The game came out in 2017 and unfortunately, it's still up and preserved. Does it? According to various sources, the game regards topics such as anti-immigration and cultural conflict, and you know what that means. The Angry Birds movie is woke. Meaning it woke up from the dead, cause, you know, you have that third movie coming out. Angry Birds prototype could be referring to a lot of things, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say this refers to the original Angry Birds prototype. Now, Unfortunately, information about Angry Birds Classic's prototype is scarce, and the prototype version we do have archived of the game is exactly the same as the finished product, so nothing interesting here. This one is confusing, cause if you search up Angry Birds 12 Days of Christmas, you'll find various videos made by different creators about completely different stuff, with the only things in common being Angry Birds and Christmas. Some are animations, some are plush videos. So, I guess this refers to the variety of Angry Birds Christmas fan videos there are on YouTube. Angry Birds Fuji TV was a 2012 web game released exclusively in Japan. This one was a collaboration with the Japanese TV channel Fuji TV, and surprisingly, this web game had a whopping 75 levels. Angry Birds Fuji TV had 2 episodes, Poached Eggs and Sakura Ninja. The game had a very similar theme to the Angry Birds Seasons episode, Cherry Blossom, which makes total sense. But the coolest thing about Angry Birds Fuji TV is the sprites, cause in this one the birds wear traditional Japanese gear. Unfortunately, Angry Birds Fuji TV shut down in early 2013, and the only way to play this one is via fan restoration that was made in recent years. It's the closest we've got. According to their about page, 4-ur.info is a Japanese miscellaneous blog dedicated to a multitude of topics that could be useful someday. Okay, so why is it here, you ask? I have no clue. I don't know how this made their way onto the iceberg, cause there's no relations between this website and Angry Birds. Maybe I'm missing something. Ninja Swine is the sequel to the Hungry Piggies animation that we took a look earlier. It's similar to the first one, Purple Bird is even here, but this time, the pigs are ninjas. This came out as a shock to me cause I was a fan of the original video and until now, I didn't know there was a second one, despite having 17 million views. Angry Birds Pork Rinds was a food snack made by Syncgeek. The product released in 2011 and with it, a video was also made and this one is a throwback. We followed this guy who's addicted to Angry Birds, and then he discovers and eats Angry Birds pork rinds. And our guy just gets hallucinations of him and a guy with a red bird head. Really fun video, I gotta say. This was an Angry Birds Go power-up that replaced a boost power-up during an update in 2014. When used, this power-up spawns a fan behind the cart that boosts the vehicle's acceleration and makes it faster. Before Angry Birds Friends became what we know today, the game was originally Angry Birds Flash, a collaboration between Rovio and Adobe. But for unknown reasons, Angry Birds Flash got cancelled and was subsequently replaced by Angry Birds Friends. Pretty interesting. The elusive repost. On May 2024, the official Angry Birds Twitter account accidentally reposted a really inappropriate tweet. I'm not gonna say exactly what the tweet said, but it's a copy-paste of some guy that got a little too excited when he saw Terrence. You can easily find it online. This is an unofficial web flash game made by 2PGame, and no, besides the stolen assets, this game has no relations to Angry Birds Space. This game features butchered designs of our favorite characters and some birds I've never seen before. Angry Birds Space Big Bomb plays differently to your regular Angry Birds games, with the main goal of defending the birds from fallen meteors by using wood planks and other structures. Despite Adobe Flash's closure in 2020, the game is still playable and you can find it online. This one is pretty self-explanatory. In 2018, the company Huggies released Angry Birds themed baby diapers and this partnership lasted till 2021. And no, there was no Angry Birds Huggies web game, at least that I'm aware of. Another weird website. Angry-Birds.com is an unofficial website that hosts various Angry Birds type games, and Duck Hunt for some reason. This site has absolutely no relation to Rovio, and most, if not all games in this website, aren't the actual games. They're the classic Flash games with Angry Birds characters. Except Duck Hunt, that game actually plays perfectly, but it's not Angry Birds and I'm surprised Nintendo still hasn't taken it down. On level 8-3 from Danger Above, the name Ethan can be spotted in the sky, and that leaves us with a question. Who's Ethan? Well, the level that you see here was made by Ethan, and he was a kid that sent this drawing to Rovio, and in response, Rovio recreated this drawing as a level on Angry Birds. In the latter levels of Angry Birds Classic's third episode Danger Above, a city with lights can be seen on the background. This city has no official name, just Ambient City on the game's files, and yep, there's not much to this one. It's just one of the backgrounds of Danger Above. This one is pretty odd. A few years ago, I came across a strange video on YouTube titled Dialogue Talking Angry Bird with Remote Control. This one was uploaded by user Olivia Liang back in May 2013, and it shows a weird bootleg plush of Red that talks. And it's like a mixture between an Angry Bird and a Furby, and this one's pretty bizarre with its wings and small realistic eyes. The plush speaks in Chinese, so I really can't understand what it's saying, and unfortunately, I can't find anything about the plush online and the description doesn't help. So yeah, this cursed Angry Birds plush will most likely remain a mystery. We're finally in Tier 7, entering the Void. What a good way to start the final layer. Angry Birds Breakfast 4 does not exist, and honestly, I don't know who would want that anyways. Angry Birds Opera was a web version of the original Angry Birds playable on the Opera web browser. This version of the game released in October 13th, 2011, and the server shut down on the 14th. Yes, exactly, Angry Birds Opera was only available for 1 day. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be archived, so we have another case of lost media. In late 2011, Zynga, the company behind Farmville, made an offer to acquire Rovio for $2.25 billion. Now we all know that deal fell through. Things would have gone a completely different way if Rovio accepted the offer, cause Take-Two Interactive bought Zynga in 2022. So in another universe, Angry Birds would have been under the same roof as the Borderlands, Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto franchises. Crazy stuff. Yep, that's true. After years of constant failure, Rovio found themselves in bankruptcy and Angry Birds saved them from that. If it wasn't for the massive success of the original Angry Birds, Rovio would have shut down and we wouldn't get stuff like the Angry Birds movie too. In 2014, an artist called Julie Adams sued the toy manufacturer Hertz for ditching her own Angry Birds plush toys, which, by the way, had nothing to do with Angry Birds, in favor of Rovio's Angry Birds licensed plush toys. Adams' Angry Birds line actually predates the original Angry Birds launch, and it doesn't help that both main birds are colored red, so maybe this was deserved. Angry Birds Code is part of a course on the website code.org, which specializes in teaching coding for children. This game has 14 levels, one harder than the previous, and the main goal is using block-type codes to get Red to the pig. Actually, it's 6 levels, cause the last 8 are Plants vs Zombies themed, which is f***ing amazing. I played a bit of it and it was fun. Pretty basic, but that's what you'd expect from an educational children's game. Back in the early days, Rovio wanted to make Angry Birds 2 as early as 2010. This comes from a blog post from the designer of the current logo. Originally, Rovio commissioned him to make the logo for Angry Birds 2, but later, he was asked to drop the 2, and the reason was because Rovio decided to make the sequel an update to the original. So yeah, we almost got Angry Birds 2 pretty early. I mean, we technically got it in form of new episodes on the original. Stella, Nana and the Magic English Words is a 2014 manga series written by Hyoko Hatano, and it was serialized in Nakayoshi Magazine in Japan, the same magazine that Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura and Mermaid Melody were originally serialized. How cool is that? This series tells the story of Nana, a 13-year-old girl that upon transferring to an overseas school, she meets Stella, and their mission is to collect English word cards to save the school and stop Gale and the pigs. This is a reference to a scene of the Angry Birds movie, where Matilda looks at Terrence's file and what he had done in his past, and she finds something. What Matilda saw remains a mystery, but there's some sources that say that Terrence committed mass murder and destroyed properties. I don't know where this information originally came from, but if it's true, sheesh. Terrence is way more dangerous than we thought. This guy's an Avengers level threat. This small striped bird, who fans call a chip, is a character that only made one appearance on the 2012 Facebook Easter e-card. Looking at the image, we can come to the conclusion that he was one of the birds that hatched from the Easter eggs from the Easter episode from Angry Birds Seasons. Pig Chungus refers to a post made by the official Angry Birds TikTok account, where they took a green beanbag, stapled a pig's face on it, and called it Pig Chungus, a clear reference to the Big Chungus Bugs Bunny meme from 2018. It seems Rovio loves doing everything except good games. This is the name of an audio file that can be found on the games files of any version of Angry Birds Go. It's a 1-second audio and its purpose is unknown, but it's theorized that it could have been used on a scrapped game mode. But since it was never used, it remains as a dummy file, with no actual purpose. Firebird is a bird that went unused on Angry Birds Classic. This character is another version of Red, but upon touching the screen, you would burn everything you touched. And there was also an anger meter, and if you dealt more damage to structures and pigs, the meter would go up and his fire powers would get a lot stronger. I don't know why Rovio scrapped the Firebird. The gameplay possibilities you would bring would have been very cool. This refers to a post made onto the Angry Birds subreddit. The OP claims that he found a screenshot of a 2010 prototype build of Angry Birds Space. Here in this blurry photo, we can see that originally the game was titled Angry Birds Aliens, and used the original Angry Birds 1.0 menu. Yeah, this is fake. Angry Birds Space only began development after Angry Birds Rio in 2011. And why would Rovio use the original 1.0 menu, when during the time OP claims the screenshot is from, Seasons was already out and using the new menu, so this just doesn't make any sense. Released in summer 2011, 1.5.1 is the update that added the Summer Picnic episode onto Angry Birds Seasons. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything about the update getting leaked, so I'm not sure if this is fake, or if information was buried during the last decade. This entry refers to a creepypasta called Angry Birds version 1.6.3. This is the classic tale of a kid that finds a cursed video game on a garage sale and things get quirky, like Ben Drowned. In this one, our main character finds a copy of Angry Birds for PC on a garage sale, and it came with an ominous code that clearly states to not use it. He uses it anyways, then it's the same tale we've heard a million times. The game gets gory, characters die and screams can be heard on the background. No need to go further. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Along the years, some videos by Fun Video TV were privated or deleted and became lost media, inaccessible from the public. One of the most popular examples is the World Cup 2010 waving flags animation, that was lost for a decade until 2024 when it was finally found. But there is also lost Angry Birds videos. For example, there's one with Angry Birds vs Slenderman. Who wouldn't want to see this masterpiece? So this is weird. Real weird. At some point of time, Commonwealth was planning on releasing official Fun Video TV plushies. You heard that right. 3 prototype plushies were made, and these include Fun Video's TV rendition of Chuck, a blue bird which I suppose it's blue, and an unknown green bird, which probably is an original character. All 3 plushies are riding ships, which may be a reference to the video Angry Birds in Outer Space. The set was never released. Maybe Rovio backed down on the licensing. We may never know. Sometime in 2010, a prototype red plush from Commonwealth randomly spawned in New York City. And it didn't take long for passengers to notice and take pictures of it. Nobody had seen Angry Birds plushies before, so this was new. This prototype red plush has a noticeably large beak, and it's orange colored, opposed to the yellow beak we ended up getting. What are the chances of finding something like that? Commonwealth was probably not too happy about it. In 2012, several fake Trojan apps disguising themselves as popular apps invaded Android app stores. In case you don't know, a Trojan app is basically malware. You download it thinking it's something else, and then you are hit with a virus on your device. It sucks. Angry Birds, more specifically Angry Birds Space, was one of the apps affected, and unfortunately, many people fell on the scam. Mostly kids of course, since these Trojan apps were targeting that demographic. From what I've read, European countries were the most affected, but hey, Portugal wasn't included on that list, and that's a W. This incident was a whole scandal, but in the end, everything was mostly fixed. Supposedly, this was the Angry Birds' original name before it was called Angry Birds during development. Or was it? Yeah, there's no real confirmation or source for this statement. All sources date back as early as 2020, and the earliest was on a video called Angry Birds Concept to Release, made by Mr. Retro Geek. We don't know where the uploader got that information, so we can't necessarily say it's factual. I'm not saying it's fake. I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Rovio is kinda unhinged, but we don't have a source, unfortunately. Another creepypasta. Hopefully this is the last one, cause these are getting way too repetitive. Turnaround is another one of those. A kid is playing a mysterious Angry Birds mod that turns the pigs into zombies, and they progressively get more and more decomposed, until they vanish. I was honestly expecting more, but Turnaround is nothing more than creepypasta slop. Sorry. The Help Nepal tournament was an Angry Birds Friends tournament that ran from May 18th to the 24th, 2015. The tournament's main goal was to raise awareness for Nepal, which had been devastated by earthquakes. And 100,000 euros of the Help Nepal tournament's proceeds were donated by Rovio to aid the country and the cause. A nice move by Rovio to assist a country in need. Also known as Drop the Bird, but who the hell calls it that? Flip the Bird is so much funnier. Angry Birds Flip the Bird was a 2018 game that was exclusive to the Facebook Instant Game service. It was also playable on McDonald's tablets in the UK, so if you were a kid in around 2018 or 2019 and lived in the UK, you probably played this one. The gameplay was simple: flip the falling birds to fit the hole. The service went offline sometime later and it's currently unplayable. Episode 3 refers to a cancelled episode and continuation of Angry Birds Stella. At the end of the second episode, there's a cutscene showing Gale, the main villain of Angry Birds Stella, entering a cave followed by Stella and her gang, suggesting that the follow-up was imminent. Additionally, a circus location was added onto the world map with the title Coming Soon. Unfortunately, the game was discontinued on July 2015 and Rovio announced Angry Birds Pop and marketed it as a sequel to Angry Birds Stella, which it wasn't. Just look at it, it was obviously Rovio bait. After that, Angry Birds Stella shut down and was delisted from app stores in 2016, and Stella's gang and Gale were phased out, with some cameos as an exception. Following the NSA controversy, the official Angry Birds website was hacked for a few minutes and was replaced with a single image. An edit of the Angry Birds Classics 2010 loading screen with the title Spying Birds and an image of the NSA's emblem on Red's forehead. A spoof to protest against Rovio and the NSA, which was totally fair. Those NSA leaks were pretty nasty. This refers to a promotional video that was included on the Rio movie DVD. This little animation is basically a guide on how to use the code that came with the movie. I have this DVD, and I got it because it had Angry Birds on the cover. I didn't know what Rio was. For me, this was just an Angry Birds DVD. Anyways, it came with a code that gave an exclusive level for Angry Birds Rio. Yes, the code has been used, and no, I can't play it anymore. It was over 10 years ago. There's a character on the game Angry Birds Evolution that resembles a lot Satan, or the devil. His name is Beast, and he was an exclusive character during an Halloween event. Since he came from Angry Birds Evolution, there's not much to say about this guy. How about we talk about another depiction of Satan on the Angry Birds series? Demonic Whizpig is a transformation of the Whizpig and the final boss of Angry Birds Epic. It's Whizpig but red, with horns and a devilish tail. He's so powerful that no bird can defeat him, and spoiler alert, the only exceptions are Prince Porky and the Mighty Eagle. Demonic Whizpig never returned since. Later known as Angry Birds Island, this was a cancelled project that Rovio was working on from 2011 to 2012. The game was built on a version of Angry Birds HD and adds a new mode called Hatchery, which would let you create your own flock by choosing its appearance and ability. Some cool stuff. But that's not all. The new Hatchery mode introduces a new world, which you would have been able to build structures, similar to Clash of Clans. Unfortunately, the project was cancelled and reworked into a different game that actually came out. The Croods, the game based on the 2013 DreamWorks movie. If it interests you, there's a playable build available online. Okay, so here's a personal entry for all of you. Lost Angry Birds art refers to an image I found on Google when I was like 5 and at some point was the wallpaper of my Windows XP. The image depicted a slightly slanted close-up shot of Red with a blue sky background with clouds. The most notable part of this image was its realism. Red looked very realistic, or at least very detailed. I think I first saw this image in 2012 or 2013, and I haven't seen it since. I don't know who made it, and no, it wasn't Sam Spratt, the fart smeller guy. I've been trying to find it for a long time and unfortunately, I haven't made much progress. Until earlier this year, I decided to take a stroll on the web and search for the image one more time cause hey, it's been a while. And after reverse image searching various images of realistic Red, I found it. I found my lost wallpaper from 12 years ago, and yeah, it looks uglier than the last time I saw it. It's funny, cause I just logged in for 5 minutes and the image appeared right in front of me. But my search wasn't over. I had the image, but the quality was terrible and it had some text on it. And after a long search that took hours filled with dead links and dead leads, I managed to find the original source and I couldn't be more happier. Maybe someday I'll tell the full story, but man, it feels so good finally getting my hands in this after such a long time. I don't know why young me thought this was a good image for a wallpaper, but sure. Okay. This one is just sad. On July 2023, Angry Birds 2 was renamed to just Angry Birds on Italian app stores. That may seem not big of a deal, but Rovio is seemingly erasing the existence of the original by deleting it from the App Store and changing the name of its sequel, which not many people like, to the original's name. Rovio is basically saying that this microtransaction-fueled game that plays like garbage was the game that changed mobile gaming. And you might be thinking, everyone knows the difference between the original and 2. No. The world is a lot bigger than you think, my friend. This was only applied on Italy to my knowledge, and I hope it doesn't spread. Rovio is literally erasing their own legacy, and it's gross. It's legitimately garbage behavior. What a better way to end the iceberg with the first public appearance of the Angry Birds. Yeah, in 2024, this ad from a 2009 gaming magazine made the rounds on the community and well, we have everything here. The old Greybird from the OG loading screen is here, a prototype design of Bomb can also be seen here, an earlier design of Chuck can be spotted on the screenshots, and he looks like Red 2.0, is just yellow red. Fortunately, I found a digitalized version of this exact magazine, and... So it turns out, the image is fake. No ad from 2009 featuring the early designs exists. It was all a big old troll, and we all fell for it. Now what? This was the last layer and the last entry. A bit of an anticlimactic ending, don't you think? People, welcome to the end of the Angry Birds Iceberg. Enjoy. Angry Birds Breakers is an unreleased game created sometime after 2012 and before 2015. This game was first discovered on the Test Flight Terra leak, the same leak that gave us the Angry Birds Space Beta Birds and Angry Birds Hatchery, which occurred on December 2023. We don't have much information about Angry Birds Breakers. This app is lost media, and the only things we got is the app's icon and metadata. In 2014, two individuals wearing Angry Birds masks were arrested for attempted robbery on a sports shop in Peru, on the district of La Victoria. The robbers were identified as a 26-year-old Joel Vanquez and 27-year-old Alinder Rodriguez, and fellas, next time you try to rob something, use an official mask. These red masks look like dog shit. According to Tuomas Ari Pulkkinen, an artist that formerly worked at Rovio, the game's actual name during development was Linut. And you might be asking, what the heck is a Linut? Well, translating from Finnish to English, Linut means birds. So Angry Birds was originally called Birds. Should have kept that name. The Angler Bird is an unused character found in concept art for Angry Birds Stella. This bird possibly would have been a member of Stella's flock, but for unknown reasons, she never made an appearance in the actual game. While I was investigating the 2010 red plush leak I mentioned earlier, I found this. An image showing two red plushies that look nothing like the Commonwealth plushies, nor the leak. These have smaller eyes and look chubbier. And why am I bringing this up? This image comes from an October 2010 article about the Commonwealth plushies, only mere weeks after the red plush leak. So, what are these exactly? People, these are the very first official Angry Birds plushies. These red plushies were given out exclusively for the Studio 52 and in the event Angry Birds Day, that took place in London. These featured a small slingshot base and would make bird noises if you pulled and launched the plush. Information about this plush is scarce, and buying one of these is virtually impossible due to its rarity. In 2019, Rovio sued a restaurant called Angry Birds with a Z, Nashville Hot Wings located in LA for copyright infringement of their property. If the name wasn't enough, the logo uses the same font used in the old Angry Birds logo. The LA restaurant was forced to change their name from Angry Birds to Angry Chicks. This is one of those crappy knockoff Flash games from the good old days, except I've never heard of this one before and I wish I never did. In this dentist game, you have to fix Ruby's teeth and this looks so ugly. I can't, man, I just can't. The Angry Birds movie hype was something else, and to add fuel to the fire, the Portuguese hypermarket chain, Continent, released Angry Birds movie collectible discs. These were the rage back in 2016. These were kind of like Tazos but thinner, and with an illustration of a character from the movie. I managed to finish the collection before it ended, and oh man, I couldn't be more proud. Every disc came with a sticker, and if you managed to get a certain number of them, you could exchange them for a plush, and these were the same as Telepizzas. I didn't like these when they dropped, cause they looked completely different from the Commonwealth plushies and would stick out in my plush collection. Nowadays, I feel the exact opposite. These are so much better and way more detailed, but the original plushies are the original plushies, so I still prefer those. This campaign was a huge success, and 9 years later, I still see old people using Angry Birds shopping bags. Here we have two instances of games that were mysteriously cancelled, and info about these practically doesn't exist. The first one was being developed in January of 2011. We have some screenshots and these show familiar gameplay but with a more detailed environment, kinda similar to the Rio 2 levels from Angry Birds Rio. Based in concept art we have of the 2011 game, this would have been Angry Birds in a much higher scale, with a train-themed level and boss fights, and it would have used the art style found in old 2010 and 2011 animations, which I quite like. The other game, from 2014, looks like it would be a beat-em-up game, where you control Red and you have to beat a horde of enemies. Red is using his movie design, so maybe the game had a 2016 release date in mind. These games were never identified nor released. This is an unreleased Christmas episode of Angry Birds Toons. The episode's existence was first discovered on a blooper reel and only 2 clips are publicly available. It's hard to make out what this episode's about by just 2 small clips, but we know that Red, the Blues and Matilda would make an appearance. It's unknown why this episode was cancelled. I don't even have a guess. Can you believe that this is the final entry? After 2 freaking hours, we've made it to our last entry. Cole Angus. Now, who's Cole Angus? Your guess is as good as mine. Not much is known about this character. All we know is that he's a bird expert, and the quote appeared on the description of the original Angry Birds back when this came out in the Apple iTunes store. And his quote says, "Let me tell ya, these ain't no ordinary finches we're talking about. These here are the Angry Birds, the ones that's gonna kick you in the nuts, and they're the ones on your side. They must be from Galapagos or something." Maybe this was supposed to be Rovio's answer to Crazy Dave from Plants vs Zombies. It's a shame we never got more Cole Angus. Even if I've never seen his face, I respect the guy, and you should too. I'm tired of those damn birds. After going through this whole iceberg, I feel weird. I feel fulfilled? This was a huge nostalgia trip, but besides that, what's more to say about Angry Birds? I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover, and it pains me so much that the new stuff sucks cause it had so much potential when it started. Angry Birds as we knew is dead, but the memories will live on. Angry Birds Space, Angry Birds Go, Angry Birds Toons. All those things will forever be treasured by the people that grew up with them. These things made me, and I'll always be a part of the flock, damn it. Alright, back to playing Donkey Kong.